Hi, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we're going to talk about martial arts. Is your martial art the right martial art for you? And this is a conversation that I have with people all the time, and this usually comes from talking to models in LA about them going to boxing class or something. And this is always the question that they have. People always ask me, I'm going to boxing class, is that really good? And the answer is yes, and the answer is also, of course, no. What is your martial art for is a very specific series of questions you need to ask to figure out if you're utilizing your time correctly in order to get the outcome that you want. I usually try to dissuade people from boxing, which sounds like a weird thing because boxing is competitive martial art where you actually hit shit. If you're doing real boxing, if you're going to a real gritty boxing gym where you're actually doing boxing. That is not where most people are going. Most people are going to a workout boxing gym where they hit heavy bags. And is that good? Yes and no. Are you really learning to do all the things you need to do as a female to learn to fight by going to that class? And the answer is definitely no. Definitely no. Step one. How often are you wearing boxing gloves when you walk around the street? Almost never. I was talking to this young lady, and the first thing she said was, I'm doing really good and I hit really hard, but if I take the gloves off, my hands really hurt. And so, what have you learned immediately? That she has not learned to close her hand properly to make a fist to hit a target. And so, is all that training that she is doing actually doing anything? And the answer is no, because if she can't hit stuff without gloves on, then what good does that do her as a martial art to help keep her safe? So she's doing something and it's making her feel better, but is it actually helping? The answer is no. So we need to ask a bunch of questions about martial arts to figure out whether or not a martial art is helping us learn what we want to know about self-defense. Step one, what was your martial art designed for originally? So originally boxing is designed for two guys to stand up and punch each other. Originally it was bare knuckle boxing, then over time they added safety measures, gloves, and weight classes. So the problem with girls learning to box as a self-defense martial art is that they are not going to be fighting anybody in their weight class. If you are a woman and you're 100 pounds or 150 pounds and you're going up against a dude, that guy probably outweighs you, which means he's going to outpunch you, which means that standing up and trying to bob and weave and hit some guy in the face is not a great plan. It's a terrible plan because you're not going to win. Just statistically, that's the reason there are weight classes in competitive martial arts, because if you get a guy who's 30 pounds heavier, he's going to be a harder hitter than you, and you're just not going to sustain the load over time. So when you think about things like other martial arts, different martial arts come from different places. So when are they from? Where are they from? Where were they designed to do? I always like Kung Fu because Kung Fu was designed a long time ago when people were using handheld weapons to fight, and Kung Fu is designed to fight multiple people at once. So most modern competitive sports are not meant for street fighting. Do they work? Yes. Are they designed for that? No. Competitive martial arts are essentially dueling. Two people of equal size agreeing to stand around and punch each other or kick each other or throw each other on the ground for a specific period of time with a specific set of rules. If you're training for self-defense, all those kind of considerations disappear. If your martial art is designed to stand-up fight, to fight somebody your own size, that's not self-defense, right? Self-defense is designed for a smaller person to fight a bigger person, or one person to fight multiple people, and that has to be built into your martial art. One of the things in boxing, they're always fighting somebody who's directly in front of them, right? That person is in front of them. If that person is behind them, they have really, really messed up boxing. In fights, street fights, there's usually a bad guy behind you. And the way that we know this is security cameras are everywhere in the world now, and you can see this all the time on YouTube. Just look at violence on YouTube. Security cam footage tells you that people are attacked from behind. So, if your martial art doesn't involve learning to turn around and hit somebody behind you, then that is a movement pattern that you need to have. Is your martial art doing that for you? Is it teaching you to do that thing? What gear does it rely on? If whatever you're doing requires you to have special gear, that is also probably not a self-defense martial art that you should be using. If you have to have boxing gloves on to hit something, that is not for you. You need to learn if you have to have short nails. If you're a female and you have to have short nails in order to make that martial art work, that is not a good idea. You probably should be relying more on elbows and hammer fists and palm heels because you can do that with your nails on. When are people most likely to be attacked? When they're dressed up, when they look vulnerable. What environment does it rely on? Competitive martial arts are usually designed for level ground that's semi-soft. Judo is practiced on usually a sprung floor or a mat floor, same thing with Aikido, because throwing people repetitively on the ground, if you're just throwing them on concrete, people are gonna break really quickly. So the good thing about Judo is it's designed for you to survive, but it's designed to hurt people in the real world. So if you practice on a sprung floor and you actually throw somebody on a concrete floor, they're gonna notice it immediately, even if they go down in any way, right? They're gonna notice it very much. Then that question of battlefield or dueling. Fighting multiple opponents is battlefield, what we call battlefield, and dueling is fighting one guy who's standing directly in front of you. So when you think about all of these things, think about, does your martial art answer any of these questions? Is it preparing you for these things? There are other questions you can ask. How is it trained? Is it trained force on force, contact on contact? Is it trained with somebody who's agreeing with you or not agreeing with you? The problem with like Aikido and stuff is that everybody knows the drill and they know when they're supposed to fall. The good thing about competitive martial arts is that that guy's not agreeing to fall. You actually have to get into the right position to make that person fall or to hit them. So somewhere in the middle lies what you should be doing. And so I know it's a terrible answer because there's not many things out there that actually meet these needs. Krav Maga is one of them. Krav Maga has some problems, but they're solvable problems. Krav Maga is learning to hit and strike without gloves, usually, unless you're doing a sparring class. And it's learning some simple throws, breaking attacks, chokes, attacks from behind, and it has turning to face, turning around to hit somebody behind you, which is kind of the thing that I think is the most valuable part of martial arts, is actually learning the footwork to turn around. That sounds simple until you walk up behind somebody and push them, and it takes them 45 seconds to turn around. You see this all the time if you're actually trained. People learning to turn around and hit hard is not something that is innate. It takes time for people to learn. This has been Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletico with just a discussion of, is your martial art doing what you want it to do? And the answer is, probably it's doing some of the things, and you have to figure out what percentage of those questions answered or taken care of in your martial art is good enough for you, right? I consider Krav Maga to be like 60% good because I think about 40% of every class is wasted on stuff that just doesn't need to be there. I think boxing is very good, but only if you already know all the other stuff about how to turn around, then it's fine. Judo is awesome, learning how to enter, but you're still gonna have to learn to strike someplace else. MMA is a great option. The problem with MMA is they don't deal with weapons because there's no weapons in the cage. So Krav Maga does deal with that. Kung Fu does deal with that a little bit, but it's not originally designed for modern weapons, it's designed for older weapons. So you're gonna probably have to learn a bunch of different things. And this is annoying for people because people want a simple answer and they want it to all come immediately in one class. That's extremely rare. I've actually never seen it done. I design my martial arts that way, but that's not how any class I've ever seen is operated. These are the considerations you have to think about.
What about Muay Thai?
Muay Thai is also awesome because now you're using more than just punching, now you're using kicks. Most people are not ready for kicks, they're not used to defending kicks, and kicks hit a lot harder than punches. So for women, kickboxing is very good. If you learn to do it without gloves, you're gonna have to start slower so you can learn to close your fist properly and hit something, and then you're gonna have to go to some place where they'll actually let you do that. But women can kick really, really, really hard. But if you learn to kick, you'll also learn a lot of things about footwork, how to move forward, how to move back, and how to balance that you don't learn in just simple striking martial arts. This has been Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletico with some thoughts on understanding your martial art from an engineering perspective to figure out if it's doing what you need it to do.